This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning. Good morning. So, so, yesterday we started with our tools, and which is regarding source code repository tools, right? So, source code management tools are source code repository tools. So, what is the purpose of source code repository tools? We call it repository tools also, right? Yes, repository. So, why we need these repositories, or what do you maintain on repositories? Sorry? Source code. Okay. So we maintain source code on repository, but why we should maintain source code on repositories? Okay, so for sharing purpose. So your development team will be sharing the project source code among the team. Okay. Security reasons. Okay. So okay.
Versioning.
So yes, for version concept, fine. Right. So these are the major reasons. So why we need source code in our projects. Okay. Source code repositories in our project. Now, and we have started with a tool which is Subversion and nothing but SVN. And as a part of SVN, we just have seen its architecture and our life cycle, you can say. So what's its life cycle and how it works? We have gone through the architecture, and basically, so developers must do checkout first. Let's say we have developers, and developers do a checkout the repository, and here we are developers. There we have server, and on server, let's say I have first we install SVN, right? Let's install SVN on it, and once SVN installed, and there we have our repository. Okay, and then so here we have developers, and so developers must do a checkout first, right? So they do a checkout. Now, once repository is being checked out, then they have a local, what do you call it? What do we call it? Working copies, yes. So developers must do a checkout first. Once checkout is done, then developers will have their local working copies. Okay, clear? Now within the working copies, developers do modifications of the related to the project. So they create files, right? They add files, they remove files, they modify the files, and what next? Once changes been done by the developers, what is the next thing? Commit the changes. Yes. So there, commit the changes. Okay. And then what? So once commits been done, then you will be having revisions. Yes. Your revision starts from revision 2. That means our developer revisions start from revision 2. And revision 1 is a default revision, which is nothing but it's a new repository. Okay. Next. So, but what other developer? See, let's say here we have developer 2. How can we get, or how can as a developer 2, how can I get the changes which are done by developer 1? Update it. Okay. So let's update. So when I update it, and there I can, as a developer 2, I can get the changes of repository or changes available on your remote repository, or I can say centralized repository. And then I can see all the changes. Now I'm up to date. That means I'm revision 2. Again, I do some modifications, and then we'll proceed with committing it. Let's commit it. Clear? And as soon as it's committed, it will be revision 3. And again, developer 3 has to update his repository first, then you keep modifying it and then pushing it. Okay. So that is what his life cycle is. Check out and then so do modifications on working copy. See, all the modifications has to be done only in working copy, not anywhere else, and then commit it. And how about update? But so checkout will be done for the first time, and from second time onwards, it will be updated. Okay, fine. Next. So, and then, so what if I, let's say, this is my browser, that's my web browser, and from my web browser, can I see my repository files? So the files, I want to see how many revisions are available on your server, or else what are the current files or current revisions available on your server repository. So how do I see that? Can I use web browser or not? Yes. Within that web browser, so what do you enter? Let's say that's my server IP address. That's IP address. And we enter the URL, right? That's my browser. And within that URL, we enter. So what do we enter here? HTTP. And then IP address of the server. Yes. Port number of Apache port number. And then repository path. Right. But so make sure this repository, there is your repository, and which is integrated with Apache first. Integrated with Apache, and Apache port number is 80. So as soon as you enter that URL in the browser, then you will be able to access your repository through your server. So because look at the first part, is it my server URL or not? Yes. Then 80 port number, which is Apache, and from there we have repository. So this is how you just enter your repository URL in the browser. Then you'll be having all the repository files available on your server. But if you want to access your files or repository, so through your Apache server, first of all, we must have this Apache as well as your repository integrated. Once Apache and the repository integrated, then you can have your files accessed from your browser. Otherwise, you won't be able to do it. Okay, clear? So nothing but when you talk about installation, no. So what we supposed to install? Okay, let's say we should have Subversion install, of course, and also we must have Apache install. Right. So, but when it's a Subversion installation, nothing but we're installing Subversion, and as well as we are creating a repository, and then Apache. Now, instead of installing these two separately, so what we do, we just install them as a single installation. See, usually we install Subversion and first, then we install Apache. Instead of doing them, and then let's install Bitnami Subversion. So this Bitnami Subversion will install Subversion as well as Apache both together and in a single installation. And moreover, so your Apache and then Subversion will be integrated. Okay, clear? So that is what we're going to install now, Subversion. And let's talk about this Subversion versions. I mean, Bitnami Subversion version. So that's bitnami.com and applications. Let's look for Subversion. There we have Subversion. There it is. And install it on Linux. Okay. And select next. And there is your version. And what is the version is 1.13. Okay. That's a Bitnami version. So it's 1.13. That's a version. Okay. One. And so let's talk about your OS. So OS is RHEL, Red Hat. So we're installing that RHEL. And when you're installing that on RHEL, now let's say I'm installing that on RHEL 6. And if anyone likes to install Bitnami on RHEL 6, and what are the versions? Any version Bitnami, and the versions 1.9.x and starting from 1.10. Okay, so any version below 1.10, okay, that supports your RHL6. Then if you like to install that on RHL7 or CentOS 7, whatever it is. So it is Bitnami and starting from 1.10 any version of this 1.10.2, and let's say latest version is 1.13 something. So these versions don't support, that means RHL6 so does not support versions below 1.10. Remember this. Okay. So here is 1.13 anyway. But let me check my version I have. So that's version Bitnami 1.9.4. So I can install that on RHL6. Okay, fine. So, but make sure about this. So this is version. You might get some conflicts while installing, but just so be careful while installing, while downloading it. Yeah. Now I need that instance. So VMware, and then probably I will then install it. Let's try that. So now, this is my instance IP address 192.168.242.137. Let's install it. But my file, installation file is available on Windows, but I like to install that on Linux. So I should have that file uploaded to your Linux. How do you upload it? WinSCP. Fine, let's use WinSCP. .137 and the username, its password. Where is that file? So that's in D drive address. So there is my Bitnami file. Let's upload that file, and I'm going to upload to somewhere in, let's say, media. Let's upload it. So it says it's already file is there. So you want to copy that still forcefully? Yes. I just want to overwrite that file anyway. It's okay. So where is that file? There we have the file. Okay. 1 second. Let me just remove it and then again do it. Just 1 second. Let's copy that. Now, there it's copied. Then we have Bitnami subversion, and back to your instance. There is my instance. So what is the folder in media? You can copy to any part, any folder. That's not a problem. So there is your file. Look at that file type. What is the file type is .run. So what is .run? It's like .exe on Windows. Right? So how do you run these files? If you want to run or execute any files having the .run extension, and so how do you do that? This // and then your file name. So I want to execute that file. Okay. So, but if you want to execute it, first of all, we should have some permissions. What permissions? I want to execute a file. I want to execute a file. So what kind of permissions I should have? Execute permissions or not? But let's check it out whether the file has execute permissions or not. Does it have any execute permissions? No. Why? Okay, you see anyway, so some of the run files like .run files, by default whenever they are downloaded, so they will be having no execute permissions anyway by default. Now, but I should assign that execute permissions or not? So how do you do that? How do I change profile permissions now? I want to append a new permission which is execute permission. What is the command? Command chmod. Okay. Then can I go with plus x or not? And then file name? Yes. Let's enter. Now, then check it out. Execute permissions. Yes, we have execute permissions. Okay. Now let's run that file. How do you run that file? With dot slash and then file name. Just press tab. Then you have file. Now start installing it. Enter. So Bitnami is going to be installed. Let's next. Now, so first we are installing what we are installing Subversion. Yes, we are installing Subversion, and so select some path. So in which folder you like to install it. So I like to go with, let's say that's a default path anyway. It's a default path. So, but if you don't like that in that path and you want to change that path, you can also change that path. Okay. But let's say in root, I like to install somewhere in, let's say, Subversion, something like some 12 is a folder existing. Okay, let's say Subversion 12. And next is, what is that? Web server port number, Apache web server port number. Now, what's the default port number? 80. But why it's asking us to select a port number 84? Anyway, let's try that. 80 port number. So unable to find port 80. This port is already in use by another Apache process or HTTPD process. So the port is already in use. So that's it. That means I already have some Apache already installed on it. So which is running on 80. And if you go with next available port number, which is 81, still same case. So 80, 81, 82, 83. So these are the port numbers which are already I have installed Apache. So the next available port number is 84. So I'm installing that on 84. Okay. But let's say you are installing Apache for the first time. Fine. And you won't get this screen because by default it takes port number as 80, 80, and then your default port number is 80. You won't be having this kind of screen. So if the port number is 80 is already in use or it's busy, then it is going to give you select the next available port numbers. Okay. Now let's go with port number 84, and then select SSL port number. SSL port number is used to have communication between your developer and then server. Now, next, what is that? Creating a repository? Yes, let's create a repository. Now, your repository will be created in your Subversion folder. Okay, so what is your Subversion home directory? Subversion 12, and there itself you will be having repository. But can I create Subversion folder in Subversion in another folder and repository is another folder? Yes, that is also possible. So it's not mandatory that your repository and Subversion has to be in same folder. They can be also different. So for example, let's say in root, let's say repo 12. Just one second. So So we're installing Subversion, and while installing Subversion, first I selected path for SVN, and that means Subversion. And what is the path? Root Subversion 12, and then repository path repo 12 input. So, but by default, repository will be created in Subversion folder. Okay, anyway, you can customize that path also. And what is the Apache port number? Is 84. But what's the default port number? 80. Yeah. And this is your Subversion server port number. Let's go with next. But again, same thing. So the default port number Subversion is 3690. But I already have another Subversion running on the same port number. So that's why it says it's unable to bind the port number. Let's select next available port number, which is 3691. Yeah, it's also same. And go with 3692. I have many installed anyway. Let's go with 3693. Fine. So our Subversion port number is 3693. Let's install. Next. So Subversion is installing. Fine. It's done. It's finished. So that's your Vietnamese Subversion stack. Nothing but just click on manage servers here. So we installed both, right? Apache install as well as Apache and then Subversion both I've installed. And let's say whether you like to restart it. So select it and then restart it, stop and configure. You can do for both Apache and Subversion. And you can also manage all together, start or stop or restart now. So this is how you manage your servers through the Subversion stack through the graphical window. But let's do it through commands. Let's close it actually. And I'm not doing through the command through the graphical interface. We'll be doing through the commands anyway. And moreover, once Subversion is installed, your browser will be open, and there you have becoming successful page. So you install Vietnamese Subversion successfully, and it's running on what port number? 84 port. Okay. Okay. Fine. So once your Bitnami Subversion is installed, now first let's check our Subversion home directory. So what is the Subversion home directory? In root, Subversion 12 was it? Yes, that's your Subversion install. And what is your repository in root? Repo 12. There is your repository. Now again back to Subversion home directory, Subversion 12. Okay. Now once you are in Subversion home directory, there is my Subversion home directory. And where is Apache installed? We have Subversion installed, also we have repository created. But where is Apache installed? Apache is also installed in the same path as your within your Subversion home directory. And open that Apache. And then within that Apache, and let's change your directory to config. But now we are in config folder. So what is my finally the path is we are in Subversion, Apache, and then config. Now ls and what is that file name? I'm sorry. Yeah, there it is. http.config file. So open that file. What exactly the config file contains? So this config file contains the Apache configurations. Right? So what is Apache configurations? See what was the port number Apache is running now? What's the port number? 84. That's Apache. And then also just look at here. These are some of the configurations so which are done by your Subversion Bitnami. See, like I said, so if you install this separately, that means let's say I'm installing Apache separately and then Subversion. If you install them separately, we must do some configuration level settings or not. So all these kind of configurations which is done by your Bitnami. It's not required to do configurations again separately. So everything is been configured. Now, so let's scroll down and look at that last fourth line. Now, so while installing Subversion, I just changed my repository path, right? See, by default, your repository will be available in Subversion home directory. But I changed that repository path. What is the path? Where is your repository path? In root? Repo? Well or not? Yes, just change that path, nothing else. That's the only one change you do. So don't change anything else, it's not required. So open that file. What is that file name is? In Subversion and then Apache config, and the file name is http.config file. Open that file. Within that file, go to the last fourth line and then just change the location. Location is nothing but, so that is your repository location. In which path your repository is configured or installed. So select that path here. So in root and then repo-12. So mention that path and let's save it. Just save it. Now. And back to your Subversion home directory. Now we are in Subversion home directory. Now once we are in Subversion home directory, I just like to restart my Subversion and then Apache. Why? Because we have done config level changes or not. What is the file we have modified? httpd.config file. So we have done modifications at server level or Apache level. Since these modifications are done, so let's restart your Subversion and then as well as Apache. So how do you do that? Now, so look at here. So there is a file. So or you can call it, it's a script actually. So it's a shell script. So this shell script is available also by default once after we install Subversion. Okay. Anyway, now, so this script will help us to restart to Apache and then as well as your Subversion, both. But how do you run these scripts? / and then your script name. That's a script name anyway. Fine. So how to create this kind of scripts, we'll just look into that at the time of shell scripting. I'll just go through it anyway. Now let's run that script. Okay. Now we don't need to create this script. The script is there by default once it is installed. Okay. If you want to open that script also, you can do it, but that's not required. Just open it. That's a script, but which we don't understand anything from this. Okay. Anyway, so run that script dot slash and then your script. Now enter. So once you run that script, then you see there is some help is provided. What is the help is regarding? I just run that script, but what exactly you like to do? Whether you want to start it, stop it, restart it. I like to go with, let's say, ctl script.sh and then let's say restart, let's say. Right? But what do you want to restart? So let's say take this script dot slash the script name and then restart Apache or Subversion. So if you want to restart Apache, mention Apache, or if you want to restart Subversion, let's say Subversion. But what if I want to restart both? So just leave it blank. So don't mention anything there. So next to that command, so don't mention either Apache or Subversion, leave it blank. Then let's enter. Now, so both are first Subversion is stopped. HTTPD. When I say HTTPD is nothing but Apache or not? Apache web server or HTTPD is a web service. Okay. Now it is being stopped. Next. HTTPD started port number 84 and then Subversion started port number 3693. So this is restart. Now let's access our repository through browser. How can I access the repository through browser? So let's say this is my repository and this that's my browser. That's my browser. Right? Now in this browser, but is it my local browser or not? What's a local browser? Your server browser itself. That's my server browser. That's my local browser. Now tell me, how can I access that repository through browser? Like we have seen that. Server IP address, port number, repository path. Okay. So let's say HTTP / and server IP address. But instead of entering server IP address, can you enter something like localhost? Yes, why localhost? Yes, we have our browser as well as repository are on the same server or not? Yes, I can go with localhost and port number 84 slash. Yeah, what was repository part? Repo-12. There we have repository. Right? Is it revision 1 or not? That means it's a new repository. Okay. Now, but how can I access that from remote browser? That's my Windows browser. So let's enter. Now tell me what we enter now? HTTP. Now we need your server IP address. Okay. Now what is IP address? Let's say if config. And what is IP address? 192, 168, 242, 137. So 192, 168, 242, 137. And port number is 84 and slash repo-12. There is your repository. Okay. And also make sure, for example, back to my server. I just go with service IP tables and then check the status. What is IP tables?
Firewalls.
Firewalls. Yes, we have two firewalls on RHEL6. What are those firewalls? IP6 tables and then IP tables, right? Now check the status. Are they running? No. Also check the status of IP6 tables. So they are not running. Let's start these firewalls. So service and then IP tables and then start. And start the other firewall, which is IP6 tables. Fine. And try that browser again on your Windows browser, that is remote browser. Enter. Now, will I be able to access? No. What? Because firewalls are blocking our request, right? So those two firewalls are blocking our request. Now you see it will be keep loading it, but so in some point of time you get this kind of not reachable. So this might be regarding your firewall issues. Now, in any case, if you get this, if you come across this kind of issue, then just try to stop your firewalls. But we are stopping only for our practice purpose, not at real-time level. So when you go to real-time level, you won't be given access to manage the firewalls. Clear? So your firewalls will be managed by the admin teams, network teams. They'll take care of it. We don't manage them. Am I clear? So there are different types of settings to allow and then to deny requests from remote locations. So that will be taken care by your admin teams or network teams. Don't worry about this. But for the time being, let's only start our firewalls. Service and then service. What is the firewall name? IP tables. Stop. And other one is IP6 tables. So stop. Now. So let's refresh. Now it's being so load it up. That's clear. So we are done with this part, right? We are done with the server part. Okay. Now, if you are a developer and you'll be running some SVN commands or not, yes. Check out and commit these kind of commands. But if you want to run these commands, you must have SVN installed on the client side. Yes or no? Yes. So that means as a developer, you also must have Subversion installed. So let's install Subversion. But most of the time, developers will be working on Windows side, right? So now let's see how to install Subversion on Windows. So Subversion on for Windows. Subversion for Windows. You can use that URL. This is not a Subversion link. Or if you can go to subversion.apache, which is official link, you can install it from there, or you can just do it from here also. That's sourceforce.net, whatever it is. So you can download it and let's install it. So, and it's for Windows. So where is that Subversion? Subversion. So this is for Windows. I hope you can do it from your side. It's very simple. Just double click on it and go with next and next and next. So it says I already have installed it. Okay, I'm not installing that again. So I'll just cancel it anyway. Fine. But from your side, make sure we just go with next and next and next. Nothing else. Okay. Once that is installed, so open your command prompt and check that SVN-version, a double hyphen version, I'm sorry. If you're able to get that version message, so this is a version I have installed, and then so your Subversion is successfully installed. Okay, okay. So very simple. Now Subversion is installed even on the developer side. So developer side, it's very easy. So it's on Windows. So Windows installations are very much easier. Next, moving on to now. Start running that life cycle. So I'm going to do a checkout first and then do some modifications and then commit the changes. Fine, let's try that. So I'm going to do checkout into somewhere in D drive, and again in D drive, let's say probably I'll try that. copy that path, change directory, and here I'm going to do a checkout. We can check out any path, right? That's your choice. So once we check out, or else why we are doing a checkout?
Local request.
Yeah, to create a working copy or local repository. Yeah, that's correct. So let's create it. So what is the command then? SVN checkout, and then what? So how it's going to create a repository? Is it creating a repository? No. Then are we creating a repository? Then what we are doing? We are copying it or not?
We are just copying the
Copying it. Now tell me what you enter next. How do you copy that?
revision number.
So you're copying a repository, you're getting a replica of it, right? So how do you get a replica of it? Sorry? Yeah, correct. What is it? Yeah, server. Okay, fine. How do you know that that's your server? IP address, and then port number, then repository path. Nothing but our URL or not? Yes, exactly. Fine. I need that URL. So that URL will be doing a checkout for us. Okay, let's do a checkout. So did we do a checkout? Yes, we are done a checkout, repository 12 and revision 1. So where is it? Let's see, D drive is it? Somewhere. Yeah, there we have a repository 12 and open it. On my repository 12, so see whatever you see, you browser, this is your nothing but files on your server. Okay, now these are the files on my server. Okay, so even on my local also I have the same file or not? And what is the revision number? Revision 1. My local repository revision as well as server repository revision both are same. That means I'm up to date. Of course, we would be up to date. The reason is we have done a checkout just now, so I'm up to date. Okay, next. So where is my repository? Where is your repository? So in repository 12, you have another folder. What's the folder name? .svn. So what is the .svn? Subversion. Okay. Open it. See that directory folder. That's a hidden folder. Okay, that's a hidden folder. If that is a hidden folder, and if you want to see that, make sure on your Windows, I think you have some configurations, right? Let's view hidden files. Check that box, you'll be able to see the hidden folder. Okay. Anyway, but what exactly that SVN contains, we'll talk about that in a few minutes. We'll back to that point. Okay. But whenever you do a checkout, once after you do a checkout, if you see that .svn folder, and that is kind of a confirmation that so your subversion is being successfully checked out. Okay, fine. So now we start creating some files and do some comments. Okay, let's create a file now. So just create some file here. Let's say something like hello.java file. Fine. Now the file is created. Okay, just some file is created. Next. Now, tell me what is this? Update, not now. Update will be done if some other developers have done changes to the repository, but we have only one developer as of now. We have no multiple developers, so we are not doing update now. Okay.
You have to commit the file.
Yeah, commit the changes to the server or not? Yes, commit the changes. Fine. So what is the command then? SVN commit -m. So M stands for message. And what is that message? In double quotations, we just mentioned some message. What is the message is? So what you are committing it, why you are committing it, give some valid message. Let's say, I just say, I have created a file. What is that file name? Some Java. Give some message. These messages has to be some valid messages. Okay, fine. But why these messages are useful? So we'll just talk about that also in the future. Now enter. Now, so what is the message? We have error message. Is not a working copy. So what does it mean?
It is not saved in the
It is not.
deposit.
See, yeah, you're almost correct. Now just look at here. So there we are. That is my folder, right? So new folder again, new folder. But where is your repository? Is the new folder, new folder. There we have our repository 12. So this is my working copy, isn't it? That's my working copy. So if you want to run any SVN related commands, any SVN commands, make sure you run these commands. So from your working copy. So if you are not in working copy, so your SVN repository or your current folder won't recognize these commands. So who is going to recognize these commands? Only your working copies. But are we in working copy? So what is your working copy actually? CD. Now we are in working copy. Is it correct? Now. So again you run that command, SVN commit. Let's say so file add something. Okay. Now enter. But is it committed? No, right? So remember that again. So if you get this kind of error message, is nothing but you're not in your repository. Any SVN related commands must be done through your working copies only, not from outside of the copy. Now, so let's go with SVN commit. Now I just committed it, but is it really committed? How do you check that it's been committed or not? And is it committed or not? Is it committed or not? So how do you know? How do you say it's no?
First of all, this kind of law is from our side to state. How do you commit that?
See, very simple. Whenever you commit it, a new revision has to be created or not? Is it created? Refresh. You're still in revision 1. And moreover, do you see that file here? No. So it's not committed. And moreover, if the file is committed, and even on the command line, you see kind of message that the file has been committed to revision 2. Every time when you commit a file, there will be increment in the revision. So was there any increment in the revision? No. So it's not committed successfully. No. So why it's not committed successfully? What's missing? Say here, whenever you want to commit a file, make sure the file is added to your repository. See, for example, I created this file, right? It's a new file actually. So once a file is added, first of all, the file has to be added logically to your local working copy first. Once the file is added logically to the working copy, then those files will be only committed. Otherwise, they cannot commit it. But how do you know that the file is added or not? Using SVN status. Check the status now. Now, what is the status is? Question mark. So, what do you mean by question mark? File is not yet added. So, if the file is added, you get a message called A. A means added. But how to add a file? SVN add and then your file name. Now, you see that? What's the message now? A means added, or you can also check the status. Is it added? Now, since the file is added, now you can commit it. Okay. So, again, back to the SVN status command. When I run this SVN status command, so status command will give list of all the files of your local repository. But on my local repository, how many files I have? 2 files, hello and then readme file. But in my status command, why it's not giving a message or why it's not giving the display the status of that readme file? Why it's only displaying that hello file status only? Why not other file?
We display only the files
It's created. Okay, fine. So that's almost correct. the file. So SVN status gives list of files, their statuses, if they are not committed to the system. So readme file, was it committed or not?
Yes.
Yes. So that is committed. So that's the reason the file is available on server, isn't it?
Yes.
But is it hello file? Is it been committed? No. So SVN status will give list of all the files which are available on your working copy only for the files which are not committed yet. If they are committed, then you won't see those file status under status. Okay, that's the reason. So there is no status for that hello readme file. We have only status for hello file, and that too which is added only. Next. Now can I commit now? Yes, you can go with SVN commit, and then some message. Let's say some hello file add. But again, we have some more, one more error message. So what is that message is? So can't open. So are you trying to commit or not? Okay, fine. It says commit failed. So now, so whenever you commit it, now is it committing or not? Committing? Yes, it's committing. To which repository? Repo 12. Is it on server or not? It's on server. But the first question, how your working copy knows? So it has to be committed to so and so repository, and that's your server. How your local copy knows, or how your command line knows? So it has to commit to so and so path, so and so repository. How it knows? Is my question clear? Simply when I say look at my command back again. So what is that command is? SVN commit only. But did I mention that commit to server IP address and repository? Is it mentioned anywhere in the command? No. Then why it's committing to repository 12 on your server? Why not some other server, or why not some other repository? What? Anyone?
We have given the path reference in the files.
Yeah. So why we did a checkout? So what was the command? SVN checkout and SVN checkout and then URL, right? Yes. So when we did a checkout, that repository URL is saved under .svn. So what exactly .svn contains? .svn contains your server repository configurations. So what is configurations means? What is configuration means? URL, repository, Apache port number, and then repository path. All these kind of configurations are saved under these files. So there we have all these files. Yeah, right. So, but if I open these files, let's say I open it. Can I see anything? So all these files are encrypted. Even if you open them, so the files won't be having this kind of information because it's all encrypted format. And moreover, if you remove that .svn folder, can we remove it? You can remove it, but if you remove it, then so can we commit it if I remove it? No, because your configurations are saved under .svn, so you won't be able to commit it. Okay, fine. So don't remove that. And that's why it's a hidden folder anyway. So moving on to that now. So what is error is? Error is regarding it's committing to repository 12 and something. Okay, that's your path. So there is committing and committing to so and so path, and then we have a message called permission. What is that permission? See, I'm committing files to server. That means, can you say that I'm writing the files to the server or not? Is it clear? So we're writing some files onto the server. Now, so on server, whenever you commit your files will be saved or committed on server, and the folder name is DB folder. So nothing but database folder. So that database folder will be having all your configurations. Is it clear? Fine. So we'll be having all your files as well as configurations. Now, so now tell me what kind of permission is missing?
Right permission system.
Write permission is missing. Okay, why write permission? That's correct. Why write permission? So committing is nothing but writing it or not. So if you want to write your files to the server, and then we must have write permission. Now let's check it out first whether your server repository has write permissions or not. Let's do that now. Can someone switch it off? So let's so where is the repository? In repo 12, right? Fine. Now check that. Look at that folder. What's a folder? DB folder. Look at the DB folder. So does it have any kind of W permission, write permission? It does not have any. So it has only for the user, but not for the others, right? Now, since I'm others, let's just change that sage mode and let's give some 777 permissions. So plus W does not work. Why? So plus W, when you just enter that plus W and the DB folder, and so write permission will be assigned only for the user, not for the others. We have seen that also, that command, right? So that's why I'm just going with commands. Or you can also go with, let's say, so others plus, look, you can also do that. If you go with plus W, only plus W, then that's only for the users, not for the others or groups. Okay, anyway, let's go with some 777 permissions and then folder name. Now, so permissions been assigned now, and now you can just go with commit. So let's commit it. So okay, now we have still an error. What? Let me just check it out. We just have changed the permissions of parent folder, is it? Only for this folder, DB folder. But within the DB folder, we have subdirectories and files. But how about these permissions? Are they changed? No, right? So we must change it. So in what code we must change it? Recursively. Yes, let's change it recursively. So once you change them recursively, then you'll be having those permissions assigned. So let's do it recursively for now, and then folder. Now we have done it recursively, and try that. So why recursively? You see that. So your file has been committing to DB folder. Then we have something else, right? So now try that SVN commit again. Now this is committed. And you see that revision 2. Yes, revision 2. And then refresh your server. Revision 2, there is one file. Okay, so just very simple. So what are the commands? So whenever a file is created, make sure. Okay, let's take one more example then. Take with another example. I create a file again. Let's say you can create any type of files, whatever the files you like. Let's say something like, that's my file name. And what's next? First, always make sure you check the status. Okay, fine. What is the status now?
It's not
Not yet added. The question mark means not yet added. And next, SVN added. Yes. And then file name. Now, what is the status now? Added. So, but why we don't have the status of that hello file, hello.java file? Yeah. So it was already committed. That's why you don't see the status. And proceed with SVN commit -n, and then let's say so capital file. Let's add. Okay. You can give any message. Okay. It's just a message. Now revision 3. Refresh. Revision 3. There we have 5. Okay. So now proceed with making a folder. So far we have seen creating a file. Let's create a folder now. Let's make a folder. I'll just make a folder something like, let's say, project folder. Yeah. Sorry, repeat it. I can't understand. Yeah. Sorry, when we are adding. Yeah. That is adding. That's not committing it. So we enter the message only when you commit it, not when you add it. Right? So why that message is required? So wait for some time. So in tomorrow's session, I'll show you that message, why that is required. Okay. So there's a purpose of that message actually. So what is the purpose? So I'll explain that in tomorrow's session. When we look into logs, I'll explain that why that commit is required. Okay. So yeah.
When we create a folder, we ask for right permission. But when we create the application, we do not have to write permission.
See. So when you commit it, so in the previous first time when it was getting committed, so it was asking that so your DB folder on your server W permissions or write permissions. So the permissions already been changed. Since the permissions been changed, so you do it only once. It's not required to change it every time. Because the files will be committed or saved on your server side. So there we have file saving on server side. Since the file DB folder on your server having those permissions already changed, so it's not required to change it every time. We do it only once. Right? The permissions already assigned or not? Yes. So do the permissions assigned only once, not every time. Okay? Because that DB folder now has write permissions, and to the same DB folder we'll be having our all files committed. So for that repository only, for repository 12. Okay. Fine. Now, so now is a folder created? Yes, the folder is created. Now, what is the status of that folder? Status not added. Okay. Now, so let it be. Now we are in that folder. In there we create some more files in it. So let's create different types of files, text files, and create a database file. And also let's create something like some zip files and images. I create different type of files. Okay. Now, so what if I want to commit that folder? Now tell me the steps I want to commit that folder. Add it. Okay. We know the status of that folder. What is the status then? Question mark. Okay. Now, okay, let's add it. Now, when you add it, so only folder will be added, or files in the folder also be added.
Only folder will be added, not only.
Only folder, not the files. Okay, let's see. So what is added?
Everything is added.
Yes. So folder and as well as files in the directory also, and everything is added. So all the files are added now. Clear? So now when you want to add it, it's not required to add it recursively. Automatically that will be considered as recursively. Fine. Next, go with SVN. And how about when you commit it? What will be committed? Only folder will be committed or files will be committed? Everything?
Yes.
So why?
Because everything is compared to.
Right. See, whenever you commit, whenever you run the command of SVN commit command, SVN commit will be cutting all the files which are added. Right? So now when the files were added, so I mean in the previous command, so what were added? Everything is added or not? All the files are added. Since all files are added, now when you commit it, what are the files which are added will be committed. Okay. Now let's say for example, I create some folder here. Right? And in project folder, we have a folder called new folder. And then I go with SVN commit. Let's say commit. Sorry. So let me add some project folder. Okay. Now tell me. So how about this new folder? Will be added or not? Will be committed? Sorry. Why?
Because it is not added to the.
Yes, it's not added. So files will be committed only if they are added. Okay. Let's try that. Sorry. So we have folder, this files. Let's check it out. Yeah. So there we have files added. Clear? But how about the new folder? Is it been committed? No, that's not committed because it was not yet added. Right. So now let me just give you a small scenario. It's very easy scenario. So let's say create a folder called, let's say I'm creating a folder called something like capital is my folder name. And in that I have subdirectory called CAS and comma, I have about, let's say 10 files. Okay. Now, among these files, all these 10 files, and I want to commit, see all these files created. But so while committing it, commit only, let's say 7 files, comma, CAS folder. I don't want to commit rest of the 3 files. So how do you do that? So this is the parent folder and this is subdirectory for it, and then we have 10 files. And from that capital, let's commit only 7 files and then CS folder. Don't commit other 3 files. So how do you do that?
Within put the file names in message.
Sorry?
In message, you can mention the.
See, message has no meaning. It's just a message. Message has no meaning. You can give also any name. You can also give your name or my name. So message has no meaning in it. Just a message, a valid message, kind of a text. Okay? Yeah. So let's say, for example, let's say I just say that capital info solution. You can also give that message. Message has no meaning in it. But just a message. Okay. So the clue is just now we discussed it. What files will be committed? Yeah, that's a clue. Yeah. So based upon that clue, you just try that. So files will be added. Sorry, files will be committed only if they are added. Fine. So try that. Here. So it's a very small scenario. Just try that out and see for today. You just do these things. So get your server setup ready. So have SVN server so install and also so set up client also. Set up client, that means developer side. install, and later you can just try this. So create files, when you do check out, and then create files, and then so commit them, create commit files, and then while you commit it and try that fourth scenario. That's your fourth scenario. Right? So some easy task for you today, and then so tomorrow we'll be looking into some scenarios. So tomorrow we'll just see. So what if the files are deleted, and how do we do version control for it? For example, let's say I'm a developer one. I just removed some files. If the files are removed, how can we restore them? And while we're restoring it, so what scenarios we should take into consideration? Right? So we'll just look into these things on scenario basis in tomorrow's session. Okay, clear? Right. So, any questions? And make sure regarding these versions. So many of you might be doing some mistake while you install that subversion. So version, I mean these versions. Okay. And for online students, so this version was already shared in software folders itself. And for classroom students, so if you're not able to find it, so let me know. I can share that file for RHL 6. Okay, for RHL 7 or CentOS 7, so you can try with that file. You can download it from the website, Bitnami website. And if you're not able to find the version which you are looking for RHL 6, so I'll just give you a copy of it. Okay, for classroom students. Any questions? I could not sorry. While committing? Yeah. Yeah. Yes, we can do it. So now, as of now, we are doing through the we are running the commands through the command line, right? We'll start doing it through command line. So can we do it through GUI, graphical interface? Yeah, that is also possible. But so that is for developers' purpose, not for our purpose. So, but how do you do that? So I'll explain that later. So you can see here anyway. You see something like say SVN commit, SVN update, something. But how do you get these options? We'll talk about that later, not now. But first, let's practice these commands. Then we'll move on to that graphical user interface. Okay. Yeah. Any more questions? Right. So thank you. Srinivas, all the folders were already shared yesterday itself. Please check it out. All the files in the folders were already shared yesterday itself. So just check out your mail. If you still have it, can't see them, let me know. Okay. Thank you.